Update starts now.
And what a start it was when this game started in the NBA. It was the Washington Wizards jumping out to a huge lead over the Boston Celtics. In fact, in the first several minutes, it started out as a 16-0 run. And how's it going now? The Celtics have come all the way back, and it's Washington 51, Boston 49, with 4:09 to go until halftime. Wow, what a shocker. Let's go to Major League Baseball right now. The Yankees are leading the Orioles 1-0. That's in the third inning. Matt Holliday a home run. Rays and the Blue Jays are scoreless in the fourth. White Sox and Tigers all even 1-1. That's in the third inning. The Indians and the Mariners are deadlocked 1-1. That's early as well. Josh Bell, a two-run home run. Pirates leading the Marlins 3-0 in the second inning. And the Washington Nationals, Anthony Rendon, a two-run single. They're leading the Mets bottom of the first in D.C. 4-1, Washington leading the Mets. Let's go back to talk a little bit about the NBA. We told you about the Wizards and the Celtics in the second quarter. Later on today, it's the Clippers and the Jazz. That's a Game 7. And for Gordon Hayward of Utah, it's all about this one.
At this point in time, it's obviously win or go home. I think the atmosphere is going to be pretty loud. It'll be a fun atmosphere. It's going to be a physical game just like the rest of them. I hope that we get the same shots that we did tonight because I have confidence in us as shooters that we can knock them down.
And an update on the NBA. The Wizards now leading the Celtics 54-53 with 2:59 to go until halftime. NFL, the Buffalo Bills have terminated general manager Doug Whaley just one day after the draft. He was there for 4 years. This is NBC Sports Radio.
Disney on Ice presents Dream Big. Join Cinderella, Rapunzel, Ariel, and more Disney princesses as they let courage lead the way. Then discover true love with Anna, Elsa, and Olaf from Disney's Frozen. Adventure is waiting for your family.
Opening night tickets start at $15. Restrictions and additional charges may apply. Playing at Long Beach Arena April 20th through 23rd and at Citizens Business Bank Arena April 27th through 30th. For tickets, visit DisneyOnIce.com today.
This is KCAA.
In the mood for some great Chinese food? Well, Mr. Yu's Chinese Food is where you need to be. Mr. Yu's Chinese Food not only has a delicious dinner menu, they also offer delicious lunch specials including their yummy fried rice and chow mein. But get this, it also includes any two items just for $5.85. Or you can get any one item for only $4.85. You should also try their Big Bowl special for just $4.10. The service is fast and friendly. Mr. Yu's Chinese Food is located at 256 Carousel Mall in San Bernardino, California. To contact Mr. Yu's Chinese Food, call 909-383-0195. Again, that's 909-383-0195. And yes, the Carousel Mall is still open.
That's right.
This is Pastor Greg from Chosen Generation Radio Show, heard right here on KCAA, 1 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Do any of these sound familiar? Not sleeping well, waking up tired, drinking more coffee than usual, can't stay focused, craving sugary drinks and snacks, feel like you're stuck on a treadmill, having trouble managing your weight, not sick but not firing on all cylinders? Any one of these could mean that you might have a system overload, and Thyroadrenal might just be right for you. Think about it. You've probably been feeling like this for a while. Life has a way of wearing you down, and if you aren't getting the right nutrients, then physical and emotional wear and tear will take its toll. Most of us at some time or another could use some nutritional support for our adrenal and thyroid glands to bring things back in balance. Our bodies respond well to optimal nutrition to keep daily energy levels up and stress levels down. Try Thyroadrenal from Michael's Naturopathic Programs, a nourishing support formula with vitamins, minerals, and herbs to put back what life takes out. Look for Michael's on the label. We're serious about good health. Thyroadrenal is available at leading health food stores nationwide. If you don't see it on the shelf, then ask for it by name. Thyroadrenal.
KCAA.
I'm sick and tired of hearing things from uptight, short-sighted, narrow-minded hypocrites. All I want is the truth.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be here with you again on another episode of our show, The Truth Only Show. And you can find us on KCAA 1050 AM, 102.3 FM. And you can check us out also on Facebook. Go on facebook.com/The Truth Only Show. And what I really recommend is that you go directly right to our website, truthonlyshow.com, and you can check out all of our shows. We got them all. They're all there listed. And anyways, it's great to be with you again. We welcome everybody. And I just want to remind you, I believe that we have the most intelligent listeners in the world because, I mean, come on, everybody would like to have something improved in your life. You would like to have something that's a little better in your life, ease up a little bit of the stress, a little bit of the worries and everything, have a little more joy, a little more peace. And that's what I know all you listeners out there are looking for, and that's what we have for you. We're going to help you to find a better way. That's what we're all searching for, a better way in life. And that's what we're here to do on the Truth Only Show. And I want to give thanks to the people that make this show possible. Our great engineer, Mr. Joe Pagano, and our webmaster, Mr. Joel Strouser. But you're going to notice that today my co-host and producer is not here with us today, so I'm going to be winging it by myself. So, but don't worry about it. We have a great show for you, anyways. And before we get started, I just want to remind some of you what this show is all about. What we're about is, and what we teach here is human nature. In other words, how are you made? How does life respond to the way you think? That part of your nature is what we're here to point out to you, describe to you, and just to teach you how it works, how life does respond to your thinking, and you do have complete control. Maybe some of us had never learned it. I know I didn't learn it until later on in my life. But I just want to give you, I have some to read to you here, just to let you know what your true nature really is. You are the master of your own life. You make your own conditions. You make or unmake your own health. You attract poverty or plenty, peace or fear, success or failure. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. As ye sow in your consciousness, so shall you reap in the outer experiences of your life. Now let's take a minute to think about that. What that's really saying is that everything is really under your control because, we talk about this many times. Your perception, the way you perceive your life, your situation, that is what you're really looking at externally. On the exterior is how you perceive your life to be. And everything that happens, most everything I can say, I can't say that everything, but most everything that goes on in your life comes from within. It goes from within to your exterior, the things, the circumstances in your life. They come from your interior world, your interior thinking world. That's so important to understand because a lot of times we think we had nothing to do with the things going on in our life. Well, in a sense, maybe we could say that's true, but it's not really completely true because we do attract and repel many things in our lives. So we are really responsible for what is really happening in our lives, and we can learn to take control. You can. It's a matter of understanding. It's a matter of learning and then beginning to use this power, this creative power of the human mind, use it in your favor instead of using it to your disadvantage. To learn to take advantage of all the good that there is in life and begin to draw good, more good into your life. I'm sure you have You have good now. I mean, sure, you have some now. But we could all use a little more good. All of us can. And I mean, it just makes life a whole lot better, a whole lot bearable. It makes everything so much easier. Well, my topic today, we're going to talk about spiritual prototype, because everything has a spiritual prototype. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm going to talk about, something strange, something mysterious, or some crazy concept. No, I'm going to make it plain and simple, but it is just something that is true. It is true for you, and it is true for me. It's true for all of us. A spiritual prototype. Everything has a spiritual prototype. Now let's give me a chance to explain. Follow along with me. I want you to think about this for a moment. Just look at any object around you right now. Look at any object. Now think about it. That object only exists because someone first thought of it. So what I'm trying to say is that object first was a thought before it came into existence. That thing didn't just pop into the air by accident. No, there was a thought behind it. In other words, we can say that it was an invisible object before it became a visible object. I think you can understand that. Now, if that object you're looking at, turn and look at something else. Now, did it not also come into existence the same way? It was a thought first. It was an invisible thing first before it became a physical thing that we could see. I mean, you can just continue to look around you and you will see that that is true for everything. So when I'm saying a spiritual prototype, in other words, I'm talking about the invisible. I'm talking about the invisible world, and the invisible world is your thought world. Thoughts are invisible. So everything came into existence because of a thought. In other words, it was a thought first. It had a spiritual prototype first. It was created first in thought, then in the physical. So now I'm going back to what I said. Everything has a spiritual prototype. So now that you understand that, is a very simple concept, nothing complicated about it, very simple. Now we can continue along. Understanding this concept, that's the whole point of this talk today. I want you to understand and make it a little clearer to you that when I say that everything has a spiritual prototype, I really mean that. Everything. And what we're talking about, all the things going on in your life, they were produced by thought first. And I mean everything. Your stress is produced by a thought. When you're sad, it's produced by a thought. It has a spiritual prototype. And if it has a physical effect on your body, it still has a spiritual prototype. It still came from thought first. And whose thought did it come from? Yours. I mean, you may have been influenced by other people. You may have been influenced by things or circumstances. Maybe your limitations have created this worry and stress and all these things. Maybe because you're limited, maybe financially. But it's still produced within yourself. The worry, the stress, the sadness. All of those things still have a spiritual prototype. That's what we want to make clear to you today. I want you to understand that point. So now you can begin to. I'm going to I'm going to give you a better idea as to how that works and why it works. Why the things going on in your life are created by you, by your thinking. I know, it might be hard to take responsibility for some of these things, but they are true. I'm only giving you the truth. And I know there are some things that you really can't explain, but we're even going to go into that. Even the things that you can't explain, you may come out and say, well, I didn't cause this. Well, I don't know. Give me a chance. Give me a chance to explain to you. And then maybe we can look at it. Maybe you can begin to look at it in a different way. I know that I have. I know that I'm responsible for a lot more that was in my life before. I know that I was responsible for it. I know that I was causing many things that I didn't know where they were coming from. I had no clue. What we're talking about here is the spiritual prototype is in the invisible world within yourself. What I'm really referring to is the garden of your soul. I mean, because the reason we say is a garden, it's all through Scripture. And, a garden that is even referred to in Scripture is talking about our thought world. It's talking about our thought world. You will reap what you sow. In the beginning of the Bible in Genesis, where it says, "Do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil." It is, that is such a powerful statement, so profound, so deep, and yet, most of us, I know, I never really had a clue of what that meant. You've all been told the other story, but forget that other story you've been told about that. I'm telling you the true story, what it really means, and the kind of effect that it has your life. Do not eat from the tree of the knowledge. Think about that. It's saying knowledge of good and evil. What it is saying is stop thinking good and negative, good and evil, good and bad, affirmative, negative. It's telling you not to do that. Because remember, going back to what I said, everything has a spiritual prototype. So when you're thinking the negative or the evil, it is the spiritual prototype that creates it in your experience. That's what it does. That's why the Bible is telling you don't do that. It's telling you to only eat or only think, or we can say, because it is the garden of your soul, only plant the ideas that you plant in your mind. That's what it's talking about, planting. Now, if it's referring to planting, it is saying do not think the negative. And then turn around and think the good, because you will experience both. You are creating the prototype, and then you will see it in your world. It's that simple. I mean, I'm trying to make this as simple as I can, but that is the truth about the way this works, about what we teach every single week on this show. It is the truth about you. It says there to only eat, or let me change that, only think the good. It says to only eat from the tree of life. And the real tree of life, if you can understand this, life is good. We live in a beautiful universe. You have everything. You've had everything you've needed all your life. You've had all the oxygen, the water, the food, everything that you needed. The universe is always producing more good, more food, more water, always. It's always producing more and more and more for you to sustain your life. So to only eat from the tree of life is to only think the good. Remember, I'm going to repeat. Only think the good. Only create spiritual prototypes that are good. Only plant good thoughts in your garden. In your remember the garden of the soul? It's not any different, and it's even in Scripture. It's not any different from a garden that you have outside. What happens when you just leave that garden alone? It begins to grow weeds. It'll get filled with weeds. And how many different kinds of weeds? Many different kinds of weeds, and you don't know where they come from. They just pop out. And here you have your beautiful rose garden or whatever that you planted, but if you don't take care of it, if you don't take care of your garden, it's going to fill up with weeds. So that's what we're talking. You have to tend your garden. But we're talking about the garden of your soul. You have to tend it. You got to watch what you're planting. You got to watch what you're thinking. So important. Remember, spiritual prototype. Everything was created by a spiritual prototype because everything has a spiritual prototype. Now, you can just ignore your garden, which we all can. We're free to just ignore everything in your life. You can just ignore what goes on within your mind and just think whatever. That's fine. You can do that all you want. I mean, it's your choice. But remember, if you just do that, there's probably, because you're surrounded by a lot of negative things, you're probably going to tend to go in that direction and think more and more of the negative, and you're creating the spiritual prototypes. You will begin to see the effects of your thinking. That's what's going to happen. You will see the effects in your outer experiences of your life. That's what I read to you earlier. And you know, whatever that you spend the most time thinking about, there will be a ripple effect. What I mean by a ripple effect, that it will affect all those people that are around us. It'll affect the group that you're with. It'll affect the family that you belong to. You may be the head of your family. And if you don't tend your garden and just think anything, negative things, and there will be a ripple effect. And, you know, you've heard this saying that we're all in this together. Well, it is very true. Because everyone makes a ripple effect in this world. If you're the head of the family and you're just thinking negative things, it's going to have an effect on everybody around you. It's going to affect your children. You are creating the spiritual prototype, and it will create itself in the outer experiences of your life. This is not only true for the individual, but it's also true for the nation. When we have people that are the voice of our nation, for example, there will be a ripple effect on all the rest of us. All the negative talk from those that are in the higher ups and leaders, there is a ripple effect on the rest of us. And I think you have seen that before. I think you see that going on now. There is a ripple effect by the thinking of the leaders. It spreads down to all of us. So we are all tied in this together. We're all in this world together. We are not separated. There's no way. And it also applies to the world. The leaders of the world, what they think about, talk about, in the negative or the positive, there will be a ripple effect. And I know for a fact, I think you see the majority of the thinking that goes on in this world by our world leaders is a lot of negative. Those are the seeds that they are planting, and I think we can all see the ripple effect. It affects us all. I mean, I know that for most of my entire life, We have been at war. Think about that. Most of my entire life, our country alone has been at war. That's the ripple effect that I'm telling you. When you create that spiritual prototype, it doesn't matter who it is. If it's the leaders, they create that spiritual prototype, it will ripple down all through and affect the entire world. So again, this is some really powerful stuff. This is some really profound teachings that are right there in Scripture. It tells you, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Focus your attention on the good. It's what it's really trying to say. Because when you focus on the good, you are creating the spiritual prototype for the good. Then you will begin to experience it. The human mind is creative. It creates whatever it dwells on. Continue to think about your limitations and you will remain limited. That's simple as that. Continue to focus on problems and you will continue to create more and more of the same. I think you have an idea now of what I was talking about, the spiritual prototype. Everything has a spiritual prototype. Think about it. I'm going to give you a chance to think about it right now. We're going to take a short break. And remember, you're listening to the Truth Only Show at truthonlyshow.com. And you're here with us at Kcaa 1050 AM. 106.5 FM and 102.3 FM. Don't go away. We'll be right back and think about this song that we're going to play for you.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue sky. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue sky. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
All right. Did you get that message? It's going to be a bright, sunshiny day. I can see clearly now. That's what we're talking about here. Once you begin to see clearly what is going on, you can start taking charge. Remember, For those of you that just joined us late, you're listening to the Truth Only Show at trutholnyshow.com, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and 102.3 FM. So we're back with you here again, and we've been talking about spiritual prototypes. And what we talked about was that everything has a spiritual prototype. And I mean everything. I mean, whatever goes on in your mind is the reflection of it. It's like a mirror. You know, this is like a mirror. In other words, what's going on in your mind, you can actually look at your exterior world and they match. What's going on in your mind, you can look at your exterior world. If you're struggling financially in your mind, look at your exterior world and you're probably struggling. You can see the types of things that you are dealing with. I mean, it is a reflection. Your exterior world is a literal reflection of what is going on in your interior world. So what has to change is not, you know, I think too many people are focused on trying to change the exterior world. They're looking at the things in their life and trying to figure out how you can change that. No, that's backwards. That's doing it all backwards. You change it in your mind first. And I know many people have told me that's very difficult to do. Well, I mean, I've never said this was easy, but I know that you can do it. It takes a little work, a little, you know, a little study, a little experimentation with your thinking. You have to become kind of like a scientist. Begin to experiment with your thoughts. Get up in the morning and think good ones. Get up in the morning and think that things are great. Get up in the morning and say to yourself that this is a great day. This is the greatest day of my life. Brand new day, brand new. Everything is brand new. Get up and think those kind of things. What you are doing is you're beginning to create the new spiritual prototypes. And will it happen like magic? No, we're not talking about magic here. We're just telling you the truth. We're telling you the truth about the way it works. This is the way it works. If you need a reminder, if you need something to remind you to think good, get a piece of paper, stick it on your mirror that you're going to look at it every day, maybe 2-3 times a day, just to remind you. Because, you know, we are creatures of habit. We do have habits. If we've developed habits of thinking that things are bad, that things don't work in my favor, nobody loves me, and if those are the kind of things that we think about, they're just a habit. That's all it is, you know. And you know what is great about this? All of us can change a habit. All of us. It doesn't matter what habit you have, you can change it. It takes a little work, a little bit of effort. Change that habit. Just like I said, put something up there to remind you to think the good. Think the positive. Think something constructive, something new, something different. Begin to read a book. I mean, I know that I was told from one of my mentors, told me when you go out on the street, don't have your mind just shut down, just following a line on the road when you're driving. Open your mind up a little bit. Begin to look around. Of course, you got to be cautious, but you got to look around. Begin to look at signs. Begin to look at things you've never noticed before. What you're doing is you're opening up your mind to something new, something different. We're just trying to give you different ideas. You might find your own way of reminding yourself to think the good, but you know what will happen? You will begin to create the habit. Once you have the habit, and you know what habits are like, they're very difficult to break. But can you imagine you develop this brand new habit of thinking good, creating new spiritual prototypes, and then can you imagine when you begin to experience the new good things that you think about? Think about that. Because I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. And this is not just my theory. This is not just my philosophy. This is not my concept. No, that's the way it is. That's your true nature. That's how your mind works. That's how life responds to your thoughts. That is the creative power of the human mind. And I'll support what I say again by using one of our great thinkers, and this is basically what he was saying. Imagination is greater than knowledge. Who said that? Albert Einstein said that imagination is greater than knowledge. So what he was really saying in his own way is to the way I'm saying it my way. Imagination is the spiritual prototype. That's it. Greater than knowledge, greater than trying to figure out things. And just imagine it, see it in your mind, speak it and say it like if it already belongs to you. The good already belongs to you. And you keep thinking that way, and that good will belong to you one day. That's what we're talking about here. Now, I said earlier that, many people say, well, I don't know how that came into my life. I don't know why I experienced some of the things that I do. I don't think about them. Well, you ever looked at a garden? Do you know where all those weeds come from? And how many different varieties pop out? Well, that's because you're not tending to them. So when you're not tending to them, they're going to pop out all kinds of varieties. They're going to come out at you from all over the place. They just come out. And that's it. They're going to come out. So that's what we're talking about here. You know why? What I'm telling you is when you're spend time dwelling on the negative, creating the spiritual prototypes for the negative, you do not always know what's going to come from it. So don't even bother trying to figure it out. Because in a sense, the mind works in devious ways, and it does. What I mean by that it works in devious ways, you're feeding it negative, so it's going to produce some things that you have no clue where they came from. That's the way the mind works. It produces things, and I say in a devious way because sometimes those things aren't very good. We suffer the consequences of our thinking, and we don't know what it is. Have you ever been surprised and wondered you did something, and then after you did it, you wonder, why did I do that? You regret it, and you say, why did I do that? You can't understand why I did that. And I've noticed, I know this is a little different, but I'm talking about, have you noticed it? Or maybe you've done this yourself. Maybe you've had a little bit too much to drink and you did something what you regretted the next day. You did something foolish. You wonder why, and you wish you could take it back. Well, I'm sure there's lots of things that many of us have done, and maybe with relationships or words we said or things that we did, and we wonder, after we did it, we wonder, why did I do that? We can't understand why we did it. It's what I'm trying to tell you. The mind works in devious ways, and we don't always know what's happening. But I can tell you for a fact, the human mind is creative, which I said before. The human mind is always creating something. Always. It's always creating something. And it's not always something that we want. But just like I said, you don't know what types of weeds are going to pop out in your garden. Well, the same thing. You don't know what types of weeds are going to pop out in your life. You don't know what's going to pop out. But they're popping out. They're coming out in your experience because the mind works that way. You're feeding it negative, and it will produce it for you. And like I said, you're not going to always understand what it's going to produce, but it will produce the negative. So what's the point here? Bombard it with nothing but the good. Bombard your mind with the good, the affirmative, the constructive. More love, more peace, more joy, more abundance. Money flows easily and effortlessly into my life. I mean, that's not a hard thing to say. Even if it's not happening right now, it is not a difficult thing to say. I mean, I know what began to happen to me when I began to speak it. I began to say money flows easily and effortlessly into my life. Did you notice I didn't say from where? I didn't say from where. It doesn't matter from where. As long as it's from a good place, what does it matter? Would you be concerned if money starts flowing from a good place to you into your life? Some place you have never thought of before in all your life? What'd you say? Would you want to stop it? You don't want it to come anymore? I don't think so. And I mean, I was told that, so I put it to practice. I didn't waste time. I didn't waste any time trying to understand it or figure it out. I just went to work and did it. I just went to work even though it was difficult in the beginning, but I did it. And what's happened? Wonderful, wonderful things have happened ever since then. I'm experiencing things that I had no clue. Things are beginning to really come easily and effortlessly. It's getting easier all the time. I mean, I'm telling you, the spiritual prototype. You're creating the spiritual prototype. Your word. Have you heard this before? My word will not come back to me void, but will accomplish all that I please. Why do you think the great teacher was trying to tell us that? He wasn't referring to himself only. He was trying to tell you who you are. The words that go out of my mouth will not return to me void, but will accomplish all that I please. And if you notice, he didn't say anything. So if the words that are coming out of your mouth are, oh, things are bad, and nobody loves me, and I have nothing but sorrow and sadness, and nothing works in my favor, you keep saying that, your words will not fail you. They will not return to you void. You are going to get exactly what you want. It might not be exactly what you think, but remember what I said. The soil doesn't give you the kind of weeds. You don't know what kind are coming at you. It's going to come back to you. It will come back to you. I mean, you know, it took many years into my life to begin to learn these principles, because I know where I was before, where I was searching before. It wasn't working for me. Didn't work. When I realized that, what I was doing before, when my life was, I can say it was a mess. I came to the conclusion that what I've been doing, what I've been thinking doesn't work. People tell me, well, you know, when you do that philosophy of yours, you still have to use common sense. Well, that's not using common sense. When you're still trying to figure out something, when somebody's telling you, giving you the better way that works, that's not using common sense to question it. Why would you question somebody that's already been taking the path that you would want to take? Why would you question it? That's not common sense. So sometimes common sense isn't always very common. Began to make sense to me. What I was doing didn't work, so I dropped it. Somebody says this works this way. After I gave it plenty of thought, plenty investigation, I said, I'm going to try it. That was common sense. And I tried it. And I followed through with what I was being told. Then I began to experience the things that I wanted to experience. And I stopped experiencing the things that I didn't like anymore. Things began to change. They began to change in a beautiful way. And they continue to change and continue to get better and better and better. What can I say? The mind does work in devious ways because you can't always understand it. You know, the conscious mind It's conscious of what's going on. Your mind is conscious. You know what I'm talking about. You're listening to every word I say. You know where it's coming from. It's coming from your cell phone, from your computer, from your radio, wherever you're listening to my voice right now. You know where it's coming from. You're conscious of it. But what we don't know, what we really do not know, is what the subconscious is doing. And that's the power that you have within you. You don't really know what it's doing. But what we're trying to tell you here is you can affect what it does by what you feed it with, or what you plant into it. Like a garden, it's like the garden of the soul. What you plant into it, it will produce for you. Just like a garden outside. You plant potatoes, you get potatoes. You will not get anything else. That's what we're talking about here. Plant potatoes, get potatoes. I mean, I don't know how much simpler. If somebody could give me a simpler way to explain this, I would. But I don't know how much simpler it can get. That's it. That's the secret to your entire future. I'm giving you the secret to your entire future. Change any condition in your life. Begin to live the life that you would desire, the life that you would begin to experience. We're giving you the secret, the clue, the way to do it, the way of life, the way of mind, the way life works. We're talking about a spiritual prototype. Everything has a spiritual prototype. So it does your new life. Your brand new life needs a spiritual prototype. That's where you come in. You produce that spiritual prototypes with your thinking. That's what you do. It's not so difficult. This is not rocket science. This is life. This is your life we're talking about. And the life of those around you. Remember the ripple effect that I talked about? Think about that. Take time to think what we're talking about here. And don't go away. We'll be right back. We're going to take a short break. And remember, you're listening to the Truth Only Show at trutholyshow.com, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and 102.3 FM. We'll be right back.
We'd like to join in with this next one. I think you might just know it.
Testing.
Joining me, Joe, Brian, all the folks.
All right.
Let's do it.
Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's easy, yeah. Nothing you can make that can't be made. Nothing you can say that can't be said. Nothing you can do that you can learn how to do in time. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love, love, love is all you need. Every time.
nothing you can know that isn't known. There's nothing you can see that isn't shown. There's nowhere you can be that isn't where you want to be. It's easy. Oh yeah, it's easy. Yeah, love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love is all you need. Love you, love is all you need. Oh yeah. Okay, you heard that. It was a version with many artists, but you know who made that song, right? Came from the Beatles. And very profound. I mean, think about it. What we've talked about today, the spiritual prototype, is all you need is love. Wow, that's powerful. I mean, the Beatles were saying it. I think the great teacher, Jesus, was saying it. I think all of them, the great teachers, have said, what you need is love. Throw a lot more love into everything that you do in your mind. Remember, the spiritual prototype. That's what you're creating. And you will experience, remember, it comes from within, and then it goes without, outside of you, your experiences. And it will have a ripple effect on your life. It will begin to affect all those that are around you. Just like the negative will have a ripple effect. You're not alone in this world. We're all here together. You keep thinking the negative. If you have hate in you, if you have jealousy in you, you will spread it. And it will not bring any good into this world. It will only be expanded on. It will have the ripple effect, and it will expand. It's a power that expands, that it runs all through us because, like I said, we are connected. So it's all up to you. It's a choice. It is your choice. It is not the people around you. It is not your government that is going to do it for you. It is not your teacher that's going to do it for you. There isn't anyone that can do it for you. You must do it yourself. It has to come from within you. So what I'm challenging you today is to make a decision. Make a powerful decision. You just heard that song. All you need is love. Throw some love into what you're thinking about. Throw some love into the people that you think about instead of hate. Remember, you even heard, and I know you probably found it, how can I do that? When you heard love your enemies? Come on, that seems ridiculous. What do you mean, love my enemies? Well, remember, you're creating the spiritual prototype. So if you can love your enemies, you're going to experience them in a totally different way. You're not going to keep experiencing the same thing. Your perspective is going to change to a much better way. Make a decision today. Take hold of your thoughts. Take hold of what you plant in your garden. Remember, it's like the garden outside. It's what you're planting into it that you will produce. Plant potatoes, you get potatoes. Remember, everything is a spiritual prototype. What you dwell on is a spiritual prototype. You are creating more of the same. It is your choice. And remember, Everything is possible, and it's all up to you what you can dwell on. If you can dwell on the possible, you will begin to create the possible. You will begin to release your potential. Your potential has been hidden long enough. Bring it out. Life is good. Begin to experience what you want, not what's been coming back at you with that ripple effect of the negative. No, get rid of that. Begin to experience what you want to experience. Life is good. Life is great. Life is beautiful. This is a great day. Actually, this is the greatest day of my life. I mean, what I'm experiencing now is greater. My perception of life is so much better than it's ever been at any time in my life. I have more knowledge now than I've ever had. I have more wisdom than I ever had in all of my life. So this must be the greatest day of my life. But if I continue to produce the spiritual prototypes of more good and more good, tomorrow will be a greater day. And the future will become much greater and greater. That's the way this works. It's not any magic. Nobody's a, you know what? I must say nobody's a genius. We are all geniuses. We've just had our genius crushed for too long. We've had our genius stepped on by being told that we are so many other things that you're not. You are not. You are great. You have greatness already within you. It's just a matter of bringing it out. It's just a matter of understanding a simple concept, spiritual prototype. I just gave you a key, a great key to experiencing the life that you want. Now it's up to you to unlock the door. Remember, knock and the door will be opened. Seek and ye shall find. All those statements, very, very powerful. So profound, so deep. That's what we have for you today. And we want to remind you to tune in to us. Go on truthonlyshow.com. You can check out all of our episodes. We have something new for you every single week. And there's one thing I want to remind you of, because this is very important to me, because I know that it's very important to many people, that if you know or know someone who has ever experienced or is experiencing anything irregular with their heart, slow heartbeat, fast heartbeat, dizziness, fainting, or any other symptoms that are, we can say, are related to the heart. Sometimes we don't even know they are. I highly recommend that you call the brilliant Dr. Trong Duong. And his number is 877-773-8664. Remember, 877-773-8664. And again, I want to remind you that you're listening to the Truth Only Show. And right now you're hearing the David Paul Band. And I recommend you go to davidpaulmusic.com. Check out the calendar for a great night of entertainment. You will be totally satisfied. And I know you're going to have a great week. Remember, make a decision. Practice what we talk about here. And it was great to be with you. We will see you again next week.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now